V8 swaps in Wranglers have been popular for decades, and this JK, we're putting a 6.4 Hemi. Now that we've got your undivided attention, we wanted to give you a brief overview of exactly what's happening to this JK. Of course, we are putting a 6.4 liter Hemi right out of the crate. Along with that, we're doing a new transmission, drive shafts, custom axles from Dynatrac, a whole Terraflex suspension, and some 37-inch tires. We are happy to show you this, but it's so much information, we're gonna break it up into 2 videos. This first video is gonna be all about the engine swap. We're halfway through our second day. Up until this point, everything we've done has been disassembly. I want to show you where we're at this point. As you can see, the whole front clip, as well as most of the drivetrain, is completely gone. We've got a few things to do yet, and one of those things is the engine mounts. Throughout this project, we're going to be using the Hemi swap kit from American Expedition Vehicles. They include a lot of components like engine mounts, AC lines, exhaust, computer, a bunch of stuff like that, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Right here are the engine mounts. They're gonna be welded in once we get those ones cut out. I wanna take you out back and show you all the pieces that we've got removed so far. Here is the engine, transmission, and transfer case from this 3.8 liter JK. Right here is the whole front clip. This is pretty modular, so it kind of all comes out in one piece, but it's got the headlights, condenser, radiator, all that stuff in it. Over here finally is the exhaust, some transmission cooler lines, and the front bumper. I can't wait to start assembly next. This new engine is gonna look sweet coming out of the crate. So here it is, fresh out of the crate, and this engine looks awesome. And it is gonna be a mean power plant in that Wrangler. It's got 485 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, and that is gonna really move those 37s down the road. Now this engine's designed to be like a swap-style hot rod engine, so a lot of people retrofit them into older cars, which is great because it comes with a lot of components on it, which makes it easy for a swap. Unfortunately, those components don't necessarily work when you're putting them into a Wrangler. So we've got a lot of pieces from AEV to make this work. Over here, we've got the new AEV intake. AEV actually charges a core on these because they take the factory intake, cut them down, and modify them so that the new throttle body will fit straight on instead of coming on at an angle. One thing that's cool to look at is the difference in the throttle bodies. This is the factory throttle body off the 3.8. This is the 6.4 throttle body. A little bit of difference in the amount of air volume is required to move this thing. Over here are some other pieces that are pretty unique. Here's a new computer, ready to go, plug and play, as well as a whole wiring harness, pre-terminated, ready to go. It'll make wiring this thing a breeze and really clean. Underneath all this stuff are transmission cooler lines, AC lines, fuel lines, all the necessary components to make it all work. Over here, we've got a bunch of pieces that are required that AEV actually provides a pretty unique bill of materials. On this bill of materials are 2 pages full of part numbers that we're required to get from our local Jeep dealer. One piece is right here, is the oil pan. This is the oil pan that comes factory on this engine. As you can tell, this is a front sump oil pan, so the oil pickup is at the front. Unfortunately, if we put that in this Jeep, the front axle is gonna smash it. So we had to order this new rear sump oil pan along with the oil pickup that goes along with it. Along with those pieces are exhaust manifolds, some sweet looking valve covers, engine mounts, transmission adapter, a whole bunch of hardware, nuts, bolts, oxygen sensors, oil filters, a lot of unique hardware. Things are starting to really come together and we really are getting excited. As you can see, the engine, transmission, and transfer case are all bolted together and mounted in the Jeep. We're gonna show you a few things that we had to do at this point to get ready. As you can see, we've got the intake bolted on, the valve covers on, we've installed the computer and installed the harness, as well as routed it down the back of the engine and on top of the transmission to where it's supposed to go. We've got the AC lines in place, fuel lines in place, the battery tray and air box are just getting bolted in now. One thing that I wanted to show you is over here with the coolers. Now we've got most of this whole assembly mounted together. Right here is the new automatic transmission cooler. In a factory JK, the automatic transmission cooler is actually in the bottom of the AC condenser. So what AEV does in their conversion is they give you a new automatic transmission cooler, and then they repurpose the bottom of the AC condenser for the power steering cooler. So we now have a power steering cooler into this. As you can see, we've got this whole thing assembled, and it's hard to see because it's mostly covered up, but this is the new all aluminum radiator that comes provided in this kit. It's gonna provide excellent cooling and is gonna keep this thing from overheating. So that's super important. We're gonna take a peek under this Jeep. The first thing I wanna talk about is this transmission mount. AEV provides a few different components that you actually have to weld together and modify to make the OEM JK transmission mount work. But once you did all that, it looks really nice. Next, I wanna talk about the transfer case. This is still the factory transfer case that came original in this Jeep JK. So whether the Jeep is a Rubicon or not, it gets swapped right back in. You can see next is the drive shaft. This is actually the factory drive shaft that came in with this Jeep. The front drive shaft would work too, but we're not gonna install it at this point because we're gonna be removing the axles here shortly. Next, you can see is the exhaust. We've got the whole exhaust installed from front to back. As you can see, there's a really nice Y pipe, 2 catalytic converters, a total of 4 oxygen sensors, and big diameter tubing. It looks like 3-inch diameter, it's huge. And a muffler here, as well as one in the back. So we really expect this thing to have a nice mild tone, but nothing ridiculous. I can't wait to hear it fire up. This is a really exciting time. We've got the engine bay all done, everything's plugged in, the fluids are all full. Would you believe it actually took 8.5 quarts for this thing to register on the dipstick, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of oil in this engine. One thing that I really liked is the new coolant bottle. This thing looks OEM. It looks original, like it came from Jeep that way. That was a really nice signature touch from American Expedition Vehicles on this Hemi swap kit. We've done a test drive of the vehicle and checked all the fluids, topped everything off. We've got no check engine lights. We actually use the ProCal tool from American Expedition Vehicles to match the drive-by-wire throttle pedal with the throttle. We also use that to turn off the tire pressure indicators, set tire pressure thresholds, tire size, that kind of stuff too. So, are you ready to hear it start? I sure am. Sounds good. The exhaust has a really nice mild tone, nothing too loud. I'm sure it'll louden up a little bit once we drive it down the road and the exhaust breaks in a little bit. Sounds good. We need to take this thing out for a drive. It drives really nice, a lot of power. So when you pull out, it really sits you back in the seat. It's of course different than driving like a big V8 powered sports car. This feels adequate, probably what you would expect if you were driving something like this. We're not gonna beat on it too hard because the engine's still fresh and we wanna give it some time to kind of warm up and break in, but we've already put about 30 miles on it. Just gradual driving, just getting things warmed up. No leaks, no check engine lights. Everything seems to be working really well. Plenty of power, feels really good. It'd be really nice to wrap up this project with axles, big brakes, new wheels and tires, heavy duty steering. It's gonna make the whole package awesome. Because I can tell right now, just how the vehicle handles, there's a few things that need addressed. So phase one of our Hemi Swap JK project is complete. I love how the engine looks in the engine bay, and I love the power that you can feel driving this thing. Stay tuned for our second video where we install the rest of the parts to finish this project.